Dwayne,
How are you?
I'm doing great. Can you see me?
Right now, I just see your a
My
picture.
my picture. Let me just see what I can do here. I spent a whole bunch of time trying to get good looking here. Huh.
I'm
Send a request.
still waiting for that to happen for me too.
Send a request for sharing. That's what I've done.
I just
If that
press yes. So
okay, and let's see what happens here. View, but and you can hear me though, right?
I can hear
Like
you clearly.
awesome. And there's my picture. Where's my frickin' video? Oh, okay, just a second. Is that
There you
me?
go. That's you.
Yay! Okay, buddy.
That's
Well,
awesome.
that was a very honest answer from the other. I'm so glad that I was screwed up in traffic and you were hungover. So I'm glad we could.
Yeah.
I'm glad we could
Uh,
rearrange this. So I want to record this. You okay with that?
yeah.
Yay! So is this going to video or it's for
Yeah.
your
I'm gonna put it
book
on my
or is
YouTube
it?
site. I'm just beginning to work on as well.
Oh, cool. Okay, then I will make sure that I don't do anything untoward. So I
Well,
saw your questions and it looked great. So you carry on. You're the host.
awesome. Yeah. So first, thanks for doing this. I
My
read
pleasure.
briefly online about your work with Walter Zwol, and as you may recall, I'm working a book about every Canadian song that made the top RPM charts in the 80s, and
Okay,
then slowly growing to a much bigger book as I'm writing about songs that should have made the charts in the
that's a
80s
good
and 90s.
one. That's a bigger
So
list, I'm sure.
it's a crazy list, and the
Oh
more I
boy.
read, the more I learn. I found RPM old magazines
Yep.
online. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many bands mentioned that I'd never heard of. I was 12 when I started listening to
Oh,
music in 83 a lot. So
yes.
like the early 80s, I kind of know the hits and not much else. So
Well, the RP, I didn't know RPM was online. I'm gonna have to check that out too.
yeah, about 80% of the of the books from or the
Yeah.
magazines from the 80s are online. I'll send you a link too if you want
Thank you.
for it for sure. But yeah, it was fascinating as I also found online charts from across the country. So I have Vancouver, Regina, Edmonton, Calgary are impossible to find, but Winnipeg and Chum and some Halifax and Sydney. So I've been looking at albums. Walter Zowell's single didn't hit the charts on the
Yes.
RPM, but
Yes.
it did hit charts in certain places.
That's right.
And so it's kind of interesting. I mean, I'm a big Streetheart fan coming from Saskatchewan.
Oh my
I
God.
mean,
I
they're
wanted to be in that band so
yeah,
badly.
they were huge in Western Canada.
They were huge to me whenever they came out here. I absolutely loved them. And what a bunch of nice guys, too. We used to just hang out during the breaks when I go see them play in the bars. And John, the guitar player, especially he and I hung out. And because I was trying to steal his gig, of course. And, but he was a lefty, too. And yeah, great guys, great band.
Yeah, well, they did really well in like the charts in Winnipeg. Like
Yeah,
Regina had number one singles that didn't even land on Canada charts. So I looked
yeah,
at regional success too. Funny story about Streetheart. I
yeah,
taught in Nokomis for 7 years,
yeah.
and that's where Kenny Shields is from.
Oh,
We rented his mom's house for a few years, and when
geez.
she got healthier,
Yeah,
they asked us to go somewhere else, so we
yeah,
found a place
yeah,
to live.
yeah,
And then his mom took a bit of a downturn again, and Kenny
yeah.
came to our house to try to convince us to stay there. So it was a pretty surreal first
No.
meeting of Kenny Shields.
Oh,
So
wow. Of course.
yeah,
That's what are the odds of that happening, huh?
so it was crazy. So I mean, it's been really fun going through the music and find all these new bands, and why not new, but new to me. And
Yeah,
I really want to highlight a lot of those in the book, and then I'm going to focus more of that when I get my website going more.
perfect.
So we'll start with the question I sent you, and feel free to add in as you see fit.
Good.
So
And
first question.
may I just
Oh,
interject for one
interrupt
thing?
anytime you want.
The way to pronounce Walter's last name is Zwol, like it's a
Zawal.
wall,
Oh, that
Zwol, Zwol.
that is good to know. That's a good.
Yeah, just so you know, in
Oh, for
case you ever
sure.
meet him. Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely said his name wrong for quite a while now because I've
Well,
been
there you go.
hyping up this album, and I've been listening to his '70s stuff as well.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
yeah,
Okay.
the only thing I haven't found yet, when I'm hoping to go to either Regina or Edmonton, is the Brutus album. I haven't found
Yes.
yet.
The
So
Brutus album. No, I don't think I have that one either. That would probably be it's hard to find. I'll
Well,
bet
you know what's
Walter has one though. But
crazy? We'll talk about your solo album a little later, but I went to
ah,
Regina this summer for a Rough Rider game because I'm a diehard Rider fan for all the
okay,
reasons
good.
I sad about. But stopped at the record store
Yeah.
and I picked up like 7 albums, like the band called The Cry that had the lead singer from Steve or the drummer from Stampeders performing, and a few other
Oh,
bands I never knew existed.
yeah,
And I looked for yours; it wasn't there. I go to pay
yeah,
for it. And I'm like, yeah, the only one you didn't have was Bernie LaBarge album. And he's like,
yeah,
oh, I
yeah.
think we just got that. And sure
No.
enough, they came back and brought it to me. And he's like, I haven't got to listen to it yet.
Wow.
So yeah, I got pretty lucky there. So
Yes.
I mean, it's album, especially early '80s with guitar or
Yeah.
horns, just sound better on vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
Today's
Yeah.
albums, my kid bought a Kanye West album and wanted to play it on my vinyl. I'm like, I can't tell the difference between this and what you play in my car.
Right.
But but
Right.
anyways,
That's a good point.
so on
Because
Walter's
they're
album,
all they're mixed for CD and MP3 now,
exactly,
right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So on Walter's album, you played guitar on all of it, and I mean, it felt like such a rock album at a time where it should have been a big album. And we already talked briefly on Chit Chat, but especially Darling, I'll Be True.
Yes.
I'm bewildered that didn't do better. But can you talk about that song and your
Yeah.
role in it?
Well, I had already done an album called Effective Immediately with Walter. Are you familiar with that
Yeah.
album? Okay, so I'd already worked with Walter. It was a huge thing for me to get in his band. Like it was like heavy auditioning, and I was relatively unknown. I'd only moved to Toronto like about a year earlier or so from Hamilton, and so Grant Slater, who played keyboards on both of those albums, he and I became friends because I had seen him play in a band and I asked him to do a demo like in 1978. So we had hit it off and we're still very, very, very good friends. And so anyway, Grant got me an audition with the band. I got the job. And right around that time, I had I just come into my own creative area. Like I played in really great cover bands. Most of them were put together by me, and I chose all the material and did everything from Robin Trower through like Average White Band and like everything in between, and blues, rock, Steely Dan, you know, funk. So I love every kind of music as long as it's done well, and I have been like that since I was a kid. So I was pretty well versed in a lot of styles, and then I just decided that it was time for me to write some stuff. So I wrote some stuff, 4 songs. Grant did the demos with me, and we, like I said, we hit it off. And that just a year or two went by, and then this thing came up with Zwol, and that's how I got the gig. So, Darling, I'll Be True. I'd already done a record with Wally, and I, like I said, very creative, and Wally was very receptive to a lot of my ideas, and I was gung ho, really, really gung ho. And every time I had an idea, I didn't hold it in. I said, "How about this?" And a lot of times it worked and it helped, and that was all really cool. Made me feel good, made the record sound good, and I'll never forget Walter for being so receptive, because sometimes you can get shut down and you won't say anything for the rest of your life, right? So he was great that way for me. So when Darling I'll Be True came around and he played the demo, these are long ago memories. So
Yeah.
if he has another, addition to it or subtraction, forgive me. But anyway, when Darling I'll Be True came along, I have this beautiful old Vox. It's called a Phantom Stereo 12 guitar, and it looks like a rocket ship. It's amazing. So I had that in my arsenal, and I thought, oh, this would be a great song. I've got to get the 12 string on the record. So this is the song, I think. So I brought it to rehearsal. These records, by the way, had pre-production for months. We knew this stuff inside and out by the time we got to the studio.
Hmm.
So we had worked this stuff out every day. We would rip everything apart. Walter was very, very picky. And so we would finally, we'd get one song done, we'd come back to it, see if there, oh, I had an idea for something. And so anyway, the 12 string idea came up. And to the best of my recollection, I would have just probably played along at rehearsal with it, and he'd go, wow, that sounds great. That's going to work. And so as far, I don't know if the intro came from what I was playing during the choruses, because it's very close to that. It is actually what I play in the choruses, but I just hit one note at the beginning of the song instead of the arpeggio that I do during the choruses. But um, that just worked out really well. And I didn't want to strum the guitar through the song. I wanted to play parts to it. So I made up the parts and they fell into place. And then, and we got all the background songs together, and that's me up in the real high registers. Can't do that anymore. But, and that's before punching in and cutting and pasting. We had to sing those parts a million times. So, and that's how the music part of it came together. And then Rob and Jeffrey Cable, of course, put his little fairy dust on it when, to make the record at Le Studio. I'm sure you've read their liners, and it was done at Le Studio in Montreal, Morin Heights, actually, which is gone now. So, like, I don't
Lots
know
of
if
more,
you've seen
seems like.
pictures of her. It's just a shell, like it's gone now. It's just like a Stonehenge, looks like that old now. But that's my story of Darling, I'll Be True, unless you want to hear any more.
Well, that's great. Well, the other thing
Yeah.
I found fascinating is as I listen to these early 80s tunes, I mean, I like to mention I started really in 83, 84, where the synth became pretty heavily
Mm-hmm.
predominant,
Oh,
is
yeah.
that all these singles, and actually all the album pretty much, and all the
Mhm.
albums in the early 80s had a guitar solo,
Oh, God,
right?
yeah.
And I just love when like even a band like Rush. I thought Rush was okay when I
Yeah.
was a teenager, and doing this book and listening to the intricacies of the music,
Yes.
something that in the teenage years I didn't,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
lyrics, or learning that Pert
Hmm.
did all the writing. I
Yes.
mean, just it's just fascinating. So, uh,
Yes.
any songs either on that album or other were early works in the 80s that you worked on that you just where the guitar you really loved the feel of being able to just jam out and let the guitar go.
Well, it would depend. Like when I was doing sessions for other people and whatever, they probably knew where the guitar solo was going to be. They didn't usually tell me what to play, but sometimes. Um, and that was great too. And because I like making them happy, of course, that was my job. And so, but yes, is there a guitar solo in Darling I'll Be True?
It's a little short, but it's
A little
there.
short one, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Because
Because
in my
that,
book I mentioned it should be longer.
well, thank you. Well, the other thing is, in the 80s, like we had just come out of the new wave and punk movement, right? So, and all those songs were 2 minutes and 30 seconds or something, right? They were just little jabbers. So we had that in mind, like the Insane, I think, which is the long song on. There's another one called
Yeah, Insane is crazy. That ending of Insane is one that.
Insane is crazy. Oh, did we ever have fun doing that?
Which one is
Let
it?
me just look at the album cover here. What's the other one called? Hey, what's your name? Yeah, that was a really neat song. Okay, so yeah, that's a little on the longer side too. But see, these are the singles we wanted to we thought of, like Her Love, Brand New Car, Darling I'll Be True. So those were probably the three songs that we would have thought of to be radio friendly back then, and we kind of worked on them in that respect. So no extended solos, but yeah, with Wally, I think, yeah, I usually do maybe 16 bars or so, but nothing extended. No, definitely not like
It's
Rush.
interesting. You mentioned what's your name? They did really on I go to look at 45s to see what was released. So Brand New Car was released, but so was
Yes,
what's your name was released as a single.
as an A side.
Yeah, I don't know
Okay.
where. Don't know where it went, but
Wow.
um,
I don't think I have a copy of that one. Okay.
yeah. So yeah, that's why I kind of find out. Like, I'm like, oh, this was actually released, and nobody did anything.
Cool. I wonder what's on the B side. I'm a
So
B side guy.
yeah, I have to check too. But
Yeah. I don't even
yeah.
know what the B side of Her Love is. Do you know what that is?
Oh, you know what? I have we're chatting here. I can probably pull it up.
Yeah. See, it's so long ago. I hate when I hear guys talking about like that. So long ago, I forget. But I'm
Well,
actually in that boat.
I forget things, and I went to school today. We start school tomorrow,
Yeah.
and I was doing activity. I realized I did it completely backwards from what I had planned. So later today, I have to go back there and do it right.
So you don't have to
So
go back 40 years, is what you're getting at.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I can't even make the day. So um, but while I'm looking that up, let's talk about so when you did your first solo single with Dream Away, I find
Yep.
it's interesting. It's more of a West Coast melodic feel compared to
Sure
what you were
is.
doing and what
Yeah.
you would do next.
Yeah.
So was that on purpose? Uh, how did that come about?
Well, when I started forcing myself to write, I had had the opportunity. I was playing on a TV show in Hamilton, and it was called Smith and Smith, and it was Steve Smith and Morag Smith, husband and wife team, and Steve is Red Green. He became Red Green later on.
Oh,
So
really?
it was like a comedy show, but it had lots of little tunes that he wrote, right? So I was the guitar player in that band. That was like a huge gig for me when I was starting it in the studio. But anyway, we did it at Grant Avenue Studio in Hamilton. And that's where Daniel Lanois and his brother Bob owned that place, right? So I met, I call him Danny Lanois, uh, was the engineer on this TV show, to the best of my recollection. And then, so I had a couple of, see, my timeline's weird, but right around that time, I said, I got to write some tunes. And I rented a piano. And I don't really play piano, or didn't at the time anyway. But I'd been playing guitar for so long that it was more inspiring for me to get on an instrument I didn't know how to play very well and fool around on that. So, anyway, Dream Away is it's kind of what kind of a story would that be? I had written a few songs on the piano, and then I was in a band in about 1979 or whatever, and we were just on the verge of getting a big record contract and everything. And it was like a four guys, one, two, three, four, yeah, four guys. We were all lead singers and we were all songwriters. And there was a lot of friction in the band, as you hear about with all bands that have that kind of thing going on. And so I was not having a good time. And I had been in a whole bunch of bands before that. And my motto had always been like, because it's a hard job doing what coming up through the bars and everything. And I said, if I'm not having fun, I'm going to start another band and just, it's got to be fun, or it's just, I got to have that in my life. So I wasn't having any fun with this band, to the point where even if there was a record deal on the table, which there was, and I still went, no, I got to go. I got to get out of here. So I had a big argument with everybody to get out of the band and whatever. And so I remember one particular argument that was at my dining room table, and everybody left. And I had a piece of paper and a pencil on the table, and I wrote down, so you think you got me shaken, thought you had me all the time. Soon your heart will soon be breaking, but I know it won't be mine. I wrote it right after that argument, right?
Oh, wow.
Just like a screw you, I'm leaving regardless, right? Your heart's gonna be broken, even though you just made me feel about this big, right? So anyway, it started out like that, and then I had a little Wurlitzer piano by this time. I did not my rental anymore. I bought a Wurlitzer, and so I'd probably done an album with Walter by then, and he had a Wurlitzer, and I just love that sound. So uh, I just went to the piano and I started, I don't know how long it took to write, but figured out some chords and got that whole groove together. I love the 6/8 groove. That's called it's like a shuffle. So if you have no time signatures or anything, it's like a dun 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 or a dun 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 rather than dun 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 dun, right? So I love that groove just from the old R&B. My sisters used to play from Motown stuff. A lot of that groove going on back then. So I had the groove, I had the chords, I had those first four lines, and then it just evolved into a love song, I guess. And I made it up from there. And then I had a few more songs under my belt. So then Danny Lanois and I at Grand Avenue had hit it off and become friends. And I had told him I had been writing some stuff. And one day he said, Bernie, I'm thinking of getting into production. And you want to play me those tunes? So I went, I'd love to. So then, neither one of us knowing what was going to happen a few years later for him and myself. So he comes over to the house. I played him the songs and he liked them. So I got to go to Grand Ave and record. I got free studio time from him. And Jim Valance was like in that band with the four main singers. Our rhythm section, which was bass and drums. Gene Falbo played bass, but our drummer seat was rotating like a Spinal Tap thing, only they didn't explode. They just went here and there. But Jim Valance played drums with us for a couple of weeks, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
Jim Valance from Bryan Adams fame,
Yeah.
right? So anyway, I really liked the way Jim played. I phoned him up, asked him if he'd like to play on a couple of songs. Yeah. And then Jeff Jones playing bass. He was in a band of mine called Stingery, which was a fabulous band. Me and Brian McLeod on twin guitars, Jeff on bass, and just a crazy, beautiful band. So, and we split up, money problems, of course. And so Jeff and I still buddies. And so I asked Jeff if he'd play bass. And so it's me on piano and guitar. I actually recorded the piano on that myself, barely knowing how to play it. And me on guitar and Jim Valance on drums and Jeff on bass, just the three of us. So we recorded Dream Away at Grand Avenue doing that. And so that's my story about Dream Away. And it just started out as an argument, turned into a love song. And then I wrote the song, and Danny Lanois came and listened to it, took me to Grand Avenue. I recorded it. I took the demos, shopped them around, got a lot of no's, and then I went to WIA, which it was called at the time, Warner Electra Atlantic, but it started out as Warner Brothers, became WIA Canada. And so I went in, I met Jim Campbell, who was their A&R, and Jim was in a band called the Spastics in the 60s. So he was like a hero of mine then. So I go in, played the tunes. He really liked them. So I got a single deal, not an album deal, 45 deal. And that's where Dream Away came out from. So a lot of shopping, a lot of recording, a lot of right place at the right time, a lot of history behind it.
That's interesting to say that, because one thing I've learned, I talked to Frank Ludwig about Trooper and
Yeah,
his days after that with Bachman and a couple bands, and why some songs do well and some don't, and the impact radio labels have, and of course
absolutely.
the payola days of the time. Is super fascinating. So that band you mentioned before that was
Yes.
that McLeod from Chilliwack?
Brian McLeod, who went to Chilliwack, he got
Yeah.
taken out of my band by Martin Onrod to go play with Chilliwack. Yeah.
Wow. Do you guys ever record anything with that band, or was that just a
I just got live gigs taped with me and Brian, but whoa, we were a force to be reckoned with, me and Brian.
that sounds like that would have been really fun. Yeah.
I loved him to death and just can't believe he's gone. He was such a great guy.
Yeah, indeed. Oh, it's fascinating. You played with a lot of people. So I
Yeah.
found the Walters Owl, Hey, What's Your Name single, the B side with Thrills.
Oh, thank you.
And the cover is pretty cool cover. It's like I think it's a girl, but it's all grayed like the album cover is. So
Oh,
there's
yeah.
actually a cover for it and everything if you just go to Discogs. So
Wow. I
yeah,
better get one.
so yeah, yeah,
That was the Hey, What's Your Name and Thrills.
yeah.
Okay.
Oddly enough, I don't see vinyl for Her Love.
You don't, eh?
I see one for Brand New Car, and that
Yeah.
had Rock and Roll School as a flip side.
I wonder if Her Love was the flip side of something because I know it's on a 45.
Her Love's on the flip side of Darling, I'll Be True.
Ooh, that's a good A and B side.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of stuff I just keep finding and just yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think I thought I would might get rich off that, but no. Oh, look at the album in the background there.
Yeah,
Nice.
I got
Thank
that
you.
one. Yeah, yeah, it's
Good.
on there now. I got Walter behind me too, so I figured I'd get the ones I have of you in there
Atta
for the
boy.
interview. Um, so on that note, let's shift over to your solo album.
Yeah.
Um, so again, I listened to it on I think iTunes first.
Yes.
I was driving to somewhere, and I was driving the Ryder game actually the same day I bought it.
There
Uh,
you
my
go.
buddy was driving with me, and he's like 12 or 15 years younger than me, so he's more of a 90s guy, and he liked it. So that was a good sign for me. We
That's a
usually
very good sign.
yeah we take turns kind of going back and making each other miserable on our drives usually. So, um, but so this one I drove when I first heard the first song, Can't Hold On Forever.
Uh-huh.
It was driving me nuts. I listened to it probably 7 straight times
Yeah.
because
Wow.
I love the guitar on the album. But what I
Yeah.
couldn't figure out is your voice had a tinge to somebody else to me. It drove me
Okay.
nuts. And
Yes.
finally, I realized, without a doubt, to me, it had a Jackson Brown feel.
That's a lovely. I heard that I read that on your question list and I've always mostly been told if I sounded like anybody it was Don Henley. I've never heard Jackson Brown before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to me,
I
I
love
think
Jackson Brown's
if
voice. Thank
if
you.
you listen to Lawyers of Love, which came about, were recorded probably around the same time, it
Ah,
has a similar vocal style to me. Anyways,
thank
I
you.
love music. I'm not a musician, so I'm learning
You're
lots
the
about
people
music. But
you're the people we play to, so you're
so
as just as important, if not more.
so Can't Hold On Forever is probably my favorite song on the album.
Yeah,
Um, I love the guitar solo in that one again. In
yeah,
'84, guitar solos weren't really a thing anymore too often. All
yeah,
right, so it's really cool to hear that in there. But
yeah,
this it's just a classic pop song
yeah.
with a little bit of edge. Can you tell me about that song?
Can't hold on forever. I remember where I was when I wrote that, of course, because I was there. Let me think. Can't hold on forever. I'm just trying to think. I think the music came first. Wrote it on piano again, not guitar, but knowing it was going to be a guitar song. And let me think. Can't hold on forever. Like what I did for that album, basically, I created a concept of like I was married young, I was still married at the time, and I was very faithful husband. So but I could still get crushes from on stage because some of the beautiful girls that were around at that time. So it sort of made a composite of my favorite, 50,000 and concocted just a love theme, like a unrequited love kind of thing, right? So I had a crush on this girl in my mind, thinking of should I or shouldn't I? Nah, but so anyway, so Can't Hold On Forever is basically the first one with that theme. So, I could fall in love with you tonight. I could play the game. I know ain't right, all this stuff, right? So it's all that. And so then I knew I had a strong chorus on it. And like these words basically came out, just like most songwriters will tell you. And then, but you come out with a line, then you got to think of the rhyme line after it. That's really how I work anyway. So, and then I'll go, I got to think of something catchy. Or is it going to be A, B, A, B? Is it going to be A, A, B, B? Is it going to be all this kind of stuff? So then you get the rhyming dictionary out. It was all fun. So it ended up to be a pretty good story. And so I did a demo of that song and three others, I remember, at Kensington Sound, little upstairs studio in Kensington. It's called Kensington Market in Toronto, little
Yeah,
area. very funky area, and Kensington sound is still there, and it's been there 50 years at least now. So I did demos there for that song, and I was just doing a lot of demos. I accumulated those songs, probably wandering here, but then I had a collection of songs. Do you want to know how I got the album deal, or do you want to know more about that song?
Oh, both actually. Yeah, because they're both, I think, pretty
Okay.
interesting.
Okay, well, thank you. So it was like, yeah, the love song, and I knew how it was going to sound. I had the whole thing pictured in my mind. Most of my songs are like that. I had a framework. So that was all done. So then demoed. I got a we can go back to other songs on it if you want, but the story of the album at the very beginning was when I got the collection of demos, I probably had about 15 or 20 songs. And I was probably I was doing sessions at the time, and a lot of it at Phase One studio in Toronto, beautiful studio. They had done some big records in there as well. Saga did all their stuff there, and some other British stuff and everything. And then, like, I met Alice Cooper there. I met Mick Ronson, they had big people go there. So anyway, I was doing somebody's album, and then Paul Gross, one of the owners, and Doug Hill, the other owner, got me in the studio, and maybe they'd heard my Dream Away song. I don't even know if I got the time frame right, but they probably had, because that was 81. So 82, I probably started talking to Paul and Doug. So Paul offered to produce my record. So there we go. And they picked the songs, and that's where the songs from the album came from. But anyway, back to Barging In, if you've got any more questions about any specific songs.
Yeah, I love the title "Barging In" too. I love
that
wordplay.
was
So
well, that was done. Dave Tollington, the promo guy from WEA Records, and it wasn't even on WEA Records, but we were friends from when I did Dream Away. He made that up.
well, it's funny that when I was looking up, just doing some research, that Can't Hold On Forever has been a single twice, because Lisa Price played it, a little heavier version of it, and
yeah, that was
the era style.
Yeah, that was before my album came out. I think she did it first, right? So yeah, I had written it. Somebody asked me to write a song for them, and I wrote it. And yeah, it was Jeff Jones. So Jeff Jones, who was on Dream Away, like Jeff and I are still like brothers. We love each other, so we talk all the time. So Jeff, I guess, was doing demos with Lisa Price or something, and he said, "Bern, you're writing some good tunes these days," because I was playing him all my demos. Either that, or he was playing on them with me, right? So he said, "You got a tune for Lisa? She's doing a rock album." So I just handed him "Can't Hold On Forever," and it's my demo of it is a lighter approach, but not really. It wasn't recorded really powerfully. Just the ideas were there. It's a demo.
Right.
So anyway, he played it for Lisa. Lisa loved it. All of a sudden, it's like, wow, I'm getting a record covered on an album, and everything. So that happened, and then I played on her album. So I got to play my song on her album, right? And I wrote another one on her album too. But
there's a second single. I haven't had a chance to listen to that one yet, but I saw there's a second single that she wrote. That you wrote that was also a single. So I Googled that up too.
Lisa Price. I know what it is. Not Gun Shy.
Gun Shy is a great song too, actually.
Yeah, thanks.
That's not the best one on the album. Actually, Bus 20 of the non-singles. Yeah, Bus 22 is the one that stays with me.
Yeah. Bus 22 is great. Like. Yeah.
Just it feels like my high school days when I took the bus and I was always crushing on some girl.
Yes, that's what happened. I saw a girl out of my buddy's basement window, and she was standing at bus route 22. So anyway, shoot. Lisa's great.
Everywhere I go.
That's the one. Thanks a lot. That's the one.
Yeah.
But anyway, she's a dear friend still. This goes back to me wanting to have fun, right? So I'm still friends with many, many, many people, and I played in a lot of bands and did a lot of sessions, and I've still got tons of friends and very good friends from this business. There's some real good people in it.
Oh, for sure. And that's the one thing I'm learning too. There's a lot of ego sometimes that hurt bands, and then the bands that stick together often stay friends. And then when you
Yeah,
do that, keep it
yeah.
successful. So overnight delivery, um,
Overnight sensation.
overnight delivery. I
Yeah,
wrote down overnight sensation.
that's a great title too. I'll have to write one.
Yeah,
Overnight
really.
delivery. Yeah.
That's on purpose, obviously. But overnight sensation, probably. I mean, I listened to the lyrics, and now having been working this book for about a year, and seeing all the record label problems of albums, this has to be a shot. I'm assuming at the struggle to be more than the guitarist in session bands or in other bands.
Yes, yes. That what came early on when I was writing, and I don't even know if it started out that way, but I was just, I had done my very best to be better than the rest. But one more time, just a sec. Did I write the music for that? I think I wrote the music for that first, and then, but anyway, the lyrics, I'm so proud of those lyrics because that's another one just came out. It became, I've done my very, well, like I would have done my very best to be better than the rest. So then I went, yeah, I have, so then it was like, the more I got into it. And then when I played the Grand Hotel in Kitchener so many times with a band I was in called Rain, another great band. And so we did one of my songs, did we? In that band, maybe. Yeah, we did. And so, yeah, so we played the Grand Hotel. And then when I came up with, and some not so grand as well, okay, then I thought, okay, now I'm talking about all the gigging I've done before I'm getting a chance to do a record, right? So it's just like now I'm going to get famous and people are going to think I just came out of the woodwork, right? And just all of a sudden there was an album, just like a lot of people do that they hear about an album. We didn't know the Beatles had been around since 1957 or anything either,
Sure.
but so it was not comparing myself to them, of course, but I put in a lot of legwork and it was just sort of a shot at, and then now they have the nerve to tell me it's my turn, right? Like I think it's been my turn for about 15 years by now, right? But it just wasn't time, and at that time, so I wrote an ode to that.
Yeah, I really felt that way because I
Yeah.
think I mentioned and I sent the questions that this one feels like the lyrics could be written today with the
Oh,
boom and
it's
bust
so
the boom and
funny.
bust of the music industry, and
Yes.
now you download it's gone. Like my kid doesn't understand
What
what
an
a
album is.
vinyl is or waiting
No.
for an album. He had some rapper have an album come out Friday. They wait up till 10 to press play on his computer and listen to it.
Well,
Right.
yeah. I
Going to
know
the
I'm not
vinyl
in.
store and finding out like, oh my goodness, Chicago has a new album coming out in 3 months.
Yeah.
Right. And jazz like
Yeah.
that. It's just a different world.
Pre-ordering an album, or going in and having them have to special order a 45 because they don't have it in stock, and I had great days. I was in a used record store like 2 days ago. My wife and I were up north, and it was great. I went in always looking to see if my album's in there, right? It wasn't, but I saw some good stuff. But then I'm going like, have you got any vintage stuff, right? And so it takes me to it like from the '90s, right? And I'm going, oh my god.
Which is just that might be the most depressing thing I've heard in a long time.
For sure, I don't even have any albums from the '90s. So,
No, I might have a couple of Weezer albums. Actually, I
pardon
bought
me.
the new Honeymoon Suite album recently.
Oh,
It came
yay!
on vinyl, so I
Yeah,
just thought I was in Saskatoon, so I picked it up. So
yeah,
I actually haven't played it yet. I've been trying to playing the music of just trying to get my one area section done in my book. So I just keep listening to the albums I
that's
can't
right.
find on, like I found yours on YouTube, but there's some albums you just can't find. The band Cry, I could not find
I'm
anywhere.
not even familiar with that band. And
Yeah,
did
they're
you
the
play one of
they're the
the
drummer from the Stampeders. Uh,
Kim Burley?
Kim Murray, yeah, he had three
Yeah.
albums in the 80s where he was lead singer. And the first album is a punk
Oh,
rock album
Jesus.
with
And
new
so
wave.
this is after the Stampeders.
Yeah, this is 1980.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I put on my website, I put the first song on there because I there's not on anywhere. So I'm gonna kind of just like put them on there. I'm trying to put in every year, like your Dream Away will be in the 1981
Yep.
section of
Yep.
Not Heard. And then like I'm only in 83 of adding on right now. But when I get to 84, then I'll be adding three tracks from this album that were singles. Now, one other thing about this album before we move on is well, your third single was Still in Love with You, which was more of a bluesy style.
Hmm.
right? But you have an amazing blues feel to your sound. And I
Yeah.
mean, it wasn't a single then, but let's scroll down here. La, 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 la. What's the song now? Uh, Shoot, I lost it. Wait, grab the vinyl. Oh, you got to work for me.
Yep.
Like when I first heard that, I felt that sounded like Gary Moore, except Gary Moore didn't start doing blues for 6 more years. So it could have been a Gary Moore take. Gary Moore
Well,
was a
to your
hard
knowledge, yeah,
he
to
was a
your
hard
knowledge,
rocker back then.
I
It
know,
was
but
such
when you
a
heard
good
the
feel.
band, well, you knew he'd been playing blues for a while when you heard that record, that's for sure. But he hadn't gone out as a blues player at that point.
Yeah, but yeah,
Same with me.
that's
Same with me. I cut my teeth when I was 14, 15, playing Stormy Monday Blues a million times, and then, but I got definitely never played in a blues band per se, because I went through all these different variations on a theme over my lifetime in cover bands and whatever. But it's funny, in the like late 80s, maybe I joined the Danny B Blues Band, which was a band in Toronto, and unbelievable players in that band too. It was Peter Cardinale, who ended up with the Dexters, the band I was in for 20 years, and then uh, Whitey Glenn was on drums, who played with uh, Alice Cooper and Lou Reed, and a band called the Mandala, who changed my life. Another Toronto band. You should try to find that album anytime you can. 1967. Soul Crusade by the Mandala, Mandala. And so Whitey was in that band, and then Danny B playing harmonica, and Doug Riley on keyboards. Doug was one of the best keyboard players in the world, bar none. So it was a Danny B blues band. So I get in there, and all of a sudden we're playing shuffles and blues and stuff like that, and I'm falling into it and stuff, and people are going, "Wow, you know, you great blues player, and producer come up and go, you should do a blues album someday." And I'm going, it's amazing, because I really haven't played blues for years, but I grew up on them, not playing them per se. I didn't know I'd say that twice in one day. But learning chops, blues chops, right? From Johnny Winter and oh man, yeah, Joe Walsh with the James Gang, and rock blues, not like an Eric Clapton, and not I'm not a purist like a Robert Johnson guy. I don't know any of that stuff. My blues started with Clapton and Peter Green and those guys, right?
Yeah, that Peter Green
Hendrix,
album
yeah,
is
and
amazing.
the original Red House by Jimi Hendrix, which is on the English version of Are You Experience. It's not really on any other version.
Mm-hmm.
I Oh man, that the licks in that are crazy bluesy. So work for me. Are we talking about work for me at this point?
Yeah, because that's probably
Okay.
I love that. That song,
Oh, and you love it. Well,
the
thank you.
newer version is even, I hate to say it's better to diminish the first version,
Yeah,
but the second one, you went all blues in. And I just hear that. I listen to blues on XM sometimes.
yeah.
That song
You
can
heard my
play on there
remix?
now.
Are you here? You've heard my remix?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I've got great news for you. Is that I really like work for me too. So, oh, one little thing about the lyrics in Overnight Sensation. Uh, when I was doing my remixes, my remix engineer, his name is Dave Tedesco, and he's a great guy, and he's younger than I am, as most people seem to be. And so I was always the youngest guy in the band growing up too. I don't know how that happened, but anyway, so Dave, I sent him the song to mix, and he went, "Holy crap, Bern, I love this song." And he goes, "This could be like a Green Day song or a Blink 182 song or something." He says, like, because it's so angry and melodic at the same time, and great hook and all this kind of stuff, right? So I took that as a compliment, and here's somebody of your age group telling me the same thing. And I do appreciate that. So thank you. And so that was Overnight Sensation. So now, as far as work for me goes, I remixed that. And I did so much stuff. I've got a version of it. I know you haven't heard yet. I don't think I put it out, like with strings in it and stuff. Have you heard that
Oh
version?
no, no.
Okay. So I really like. I own the multi tracks for Barging In, so I have most of them. There's a couple of songs that we recorded over to save tape and everything, but um, so in general, I have the multi tracks, so I could start from scratch, right? So I can bring up anything or add. I did overdubs on these things. So anyway, I added strings to it, and I added all sorts of things. You should hear my remix of Annie, the ballad. But anyway, worked for me. So I went, holy crap, I've got an idea. Because I can take out the guitar track, I've got so many friends that are great guitar players. Why don't I just give them the track and let them play it like it was theirs? And right, I'll
Oh,
give them the
cool.
bed track, let them play, right? So, world premiere for you. I'm not going to play you anything, but I'm going to tell you who's on it, okay? So
Sounds
I
good.
don't know when it's coming out, or I'm gonna probably call it variations on a theme or something. So not in any order in particular. I just got the list here. Ted Quinlan, believe it or not. So work for me is like a rock blues dude. Ted Quinlan is probably Canada's best jazz guitar player. So he's playing like Wes Montgomery kind of things over work for me. Then I've got Rick Emmett from Triumph.
Triumph. Oh
Okay,
wow.
rocking on. I've got one of the most unknown and underrated guys. Mike Branton is his name, and he should be famous. You will know when you hear him. Another guy named Jimmy Bowskill, who plays now with the Sheepdogs, I think, and
Oh, from
another
the Saskatoon.
Blue Rodeo now.
Oh wow.
So anyway, I've known him since he was 12 years old. He came out, he was like a little country and western kid,
Oh jeez.
right? Playing
Yeah.
guitar. So years go by, and I was playing with David Clayton Thomas at a blues festival in Ottawa, and I'm downstairs waiting to go on, and all of a sudden I'm hearing this like incredible blues trio playing, right? And so I go up, I go, who the hell is that guitar player? It's going nuts. And the guy goes, it's Jimmy Bowskill. And I went, what? So this is like you telling me that all of a sudden I was a blues player. It's like Jimmy Bowskill. He had to be down in his basement for many years when he was doing the country thing, playing blues, because he's incredible. So anyway, Jimmy's on there. Then I've got Elliot Randall, believe it or not, who is the guitar player who played the guitar solo of all time on Reelin' in the Years by Steely Dan.
Oh nice.
Okay, big
Wow.
time. Then I've got Danny Weiss, who is the guitar player for Rhinoceros, which is another album you should get along with when you're looking for Mandela. Get the first Rhinoceros album. Um, I learned a lot of stuff off of that boy. So Danny played with Rhinoceros. He also played with Bette Midler and Lou Reed and Alice Cooper.
What's a
He and Whitey,
variety?
yes, he and Whitey. So anyway, he can play anything, and everything he plays is like a keeper, like something that you'll be whistling in the shower. He's just got so much taste, and so we're good friends. So then there's me, and last but not least, a guy named Alex Lifeson playing on this
Oh,
record. Yeah,
that guy sounds familiar.
yeah, it does sound familiar. Yeah. So Alex and I are really good friends. So anyway, he was the first one I asked just to test the waters to see if anybody would be interested in this idea I had. I got my song from 1983. I can pull the faders down, no guitar. I'm going to send it to you. I'll send you what I did, but don't even think about what I did. Those are the places where the guitar goes. Go for it, right? So then Bob's your uncle. So I've got an album's worth of this guest artist thing, which I think is a brilliant idea. Turned out great. Dave Tedesco mixed it. And so then I don't know what's going to happen with it. But just to put in a small plug, there is a record company in Australia, and I don't even know what it's called, but they're going to release at some point, they're going to release Barging In again on CD. It is out on CD, but it's rare, as is the vinyl, as you know. And so that's going to come out. I don't know. We've been talking about it for a couple of years now because I keep remixing things. So it
Well, that's what I
might go.
noticed. So the one that's on oh, what's the music website? Pledge Music. No, what it's called. I can't remember what it's called now. All your music's on this one site to buy. Is the Bargin In album a remix version, not the original?
There was a re mastered version.
Yeah, the remastered
Not a
version.
yeah, not but not a remixed
That's not
version.
remixed.
Yeah. So when you're talking about hearing "Work for Me,"
I saw it on you. Was it YouTube? I saw it, or was
because
it
you're the guy
on?
that remastered it, J.K. Northrup, his name is, from L.A., who I've never met in person, but
Oh, really?
he's awesome, a remastering guy, right? So you can hear the difference definitely between the original Barging In and what he did with the remaster for sure. But there's no remixing on that record.
Oh, yeah. Bank. Yeah, on
Was it called
Bandcamp.
Redux? Was it called Redux?
The album was called
Yeah,
Redux,
yeah.
and there was a "You've Got to Work for Me" 2020 version,
Shoot.
and it also "Can't Hold On Forever" 2020 is on Bandcamp, and both just have a little more edge to them. And
Okay,
actually,
well then they're probably remixed, but I'm sure they've been remixed 50 times since then. But
and then yeah, the other one, Nancy Nancy, which I'm not sure what year it came out,
oh,
was
that's a
a
great
song I
song.
hadn't heard, which was quite a bit of fun.
Good rock tune. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was mixed by Garth Richardson, who God, he does all sorts of huge like 9 Inch Nails and stuff. And he's like he calls me Uncle Bernie. So his dad, Jack Richardson, is one of the most important people in my life, and he got me a lot of made me a lot of friends. He's the guy that did all the Guess Who stuff, right, Jack?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Alice Cooper and a
Well,
lot of
the lot thing I mentioned on here was actually pretty fascinating, although you already mentioned about a new album, so that's cool.
yeah.
Is I did there's an article online about you on a website. I can't remember. One thing it's on Medium or something. And it's like Alex Lifeson quotes about you, Rick Emmett. So people who are actually recording on this album, which is even more fascinating.
Yes.
David Clayton Thomas, who, I mean, his voice, I mean, though, especially in the late 60s. I love Chicago, like old
Yeah.
Chicago. In the
Yeah.
80s, I liked ballad Chicago because I was young, but now it's like
Yeah.
early Chicago, the
Yeah.
horn. And then, of course, Blood,
Beautiful.
Sweat, and Tears had a very similar sound, but man, David Clayton Thomas could sing anything. So I heard you played for him for quite a while. Because the
Yes, I
last
did.
question is, you played with tons of people. Are there people you played with, or stories that just still linger as great memories after all these times? I guess there's lots that probably do. Anything you want to share, I guess, is a better question.
Oh no, I'd be willing to share most, if not all of them, but that would be very hard to pick one out. And like I did like a million jingles as well as a session guy, right? For beers and all that kind of stuff. So meeting all of the session guys, and I don't know if you know, I was one of the guitar players on the original Fraggle Rock show. So I don't know if you
Oh,
know
I did
that.
not know that.
Okay, so anyway, that was pretty neat. And and yeah, and the Irish Rovers I played with for years, like, which is completely nonsensical to most of my friends when I did it. I had more fun with those guys and played some incredible music with them. And I'm telling you, I'm so glad I was offered that job uh, and took it. And so I have a lot of stuff under my belt. And so I don't have any favorite stories. Most of the stories about, would be how the heck I got there. Like, it's like, wow. And no, I couldn't like most of the funny stories would probably be from like when I was playing live in the bars, but as far as sessions go, like Jack Richardson got me, like, I just met so many people through him, and it just kind of didn't snowball by any means, because when you're doing sessions, like each one you do could be the last one you ever do, right? If you
Right.
Yeah, like it's a very high pressure job. And so I can't think of them being like memorable, because they were all memorable because it's like full on concentration, full on uh, creativity in a time frame with total strangers behind the glass waiting for you to make a mistake and stop you, right? Like, so it's like
Right.
to get through that wall and get free takes a heck of a long time, and I got through that part. So after that point, through Jack, through doing so many of those sessions, it became easier and easier. It was not like playing live at all. Um, it was permanent. So it wasn't like playing live. Not that I went, shit, I'll just try something else. I don't care. No one, but more experimenting it on the coming up area of my life, more finesse and more cream of the crop licks when you're recording because you don't have four sets to try it over and over again or 6 nights in a matinee. So 50 weeks a year. And then yeah, so that's that. So I don't have any stories for you.
Well, that's all right. I think
Yeah,
I told Frank this too. I think you too should, when you have time, write a book about your story,
yeah.
because
Oh
man,
my God.
it's all I read now is generally I just finished reading the lead singer of the Spoons autobiography. And it's pretty
Who wrote
fascinating.
that? Who wrote
Gordon
that?
Depp.
Oh,
Yep,
Gordy
yep,
wrote that. Oh
yep,
wow. See,
yep.
my hometown is Burlington, and they're from Burlington, Ontario, and I thought that was very great. And
Oh yeah.
he was the first guy. Who's the synth player in that band? Is it Gordon?
Oh, no, no.
No.
Originally, was God, name will lose me now, but he went on to play for Honeymoon Suite after that.
Okay. Oh,
He was like young. He was like underage. All the bars they went to when they first started.
oh, then it's shoot,
Ray Coburn. Is that his
Ray
name?
Coburn. Was he
Yeah,
the original player for Old
yeah.
Spoons? Anyway, I was like reading like Canadian Musician magazine or whatever, and here it's like, oh, here's a band from Burlington called the Spoons. But that the keyboard player in that band was the first guy I'd ever read of whose first keyboard instrument was a synth. Like he didn't grow up on piano like everybody else, right? His synths had come out, and he'd grown up. That was the first keyboard he ever was handed. And I went, wow, I'm already getting old. I was probably 25.
Yeah, isn't it? How the music
Yeah.
changed a lot. Not always for the much for the better sometimes,
Oh, yeah.
but
I
but
didn't know Ray was in that band. Well, I thought you were going to say there's another guy who's.
I'm pretty sure that's his name. I'm going by memory here, but
Yeah, no, no, there's a Ray Coburn for sure.
and he was underage, so he'd go to the bar and play, and then
Yeah.
couldn't drink,
Oh, yeah, me
yeah,
too. Yeah, yeah.
pretty
That
funny stories.
a lot of that going around back when drinking was 21, right? So.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess we mentioned this about your blue thing. Anything else coming out or you're working on as the
Yeah,
year goes
as
on?
whatever. No, like you put the bug in my ear. Like a lot of people keep mentioning this blues aspect, right? So it's just a matter of the end game. Like there's no end game anymore. Like because there's no money to be had, and I don't do it for the money, but it's just the distribution part of it is weird. You can't put an album out anymore because nobody listens to an album; they listen to singles, right? So
Yeah.
that whole concept, I really appreciate your sentiment, and I'd love to do one, but I'd almost have to like make one file if I wanted them to hear the album, like I
Yeah.
just like don't even think about stopping because you just never know. It's hard to write blues or play blues. Like there's so many great players. Like once you hear this thing, which I think I should put out, you're really inspiring me to do that. I've been sitting on this for a while now. So, um, hmm, yeah, like I mean, you can put it out yourself too, right? I can put it on Bandcamp and all that stuff. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll think about
Well,
that.
what's interesting is I find, because I've been to a couple of blues festivals here and there. Like,
Yes,
I mean, with the people you have in the past and so forth, you could
yeah.
probably get a pretty good, blues summer festival gigs to
Oh, there's
showcase
no
too,
doubt about
right?
it. I can't play a whole gig anymore. Like I got the
No?
old arthritis and the
Oh, fair
rheumatiz.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah, the old rheumatiz.
Yeah,
So,
I would
yeah.
love to see like Walter's band when he was in
Oh,
the early 80s.
I got to play some live gigs with him, right?
That
Not as
band
many
live
as I
must have
ever
been
could like
watching him play live must have been fun. He seemed like quite the character.
so intense, so intense. I can't even explain to you how intense that band was. I've never experienced anything like working with Walter, being Walter's friend, recording with him, like all the live stuff and whatever. He is a very, very, very unique and wonderful person and wouldn't hurt a fly. He's so gentle. but you get him on stage and he looks like a cheetah, like he's crazy. I saw him play my friend Grant Slater from Zwol. He's unfortunately he's got Alzheimer's now. This is the time of life I'm getting to. And so we went to a not a benefit, it's like a real get together where everybody plays and stuff or tries to. And Walter got up and sang a tune, right? And I hadn't seen him sing in years.
Oh
It
yeah.
was still awesome. He was still awesome. He's had his knees done because of everything he used to do on stage. But I think Brutus, I only saw Brutus once and it was nuts. I think that band was even nuttier than Zwol was. And like they had the lots of road stories, those guys. And they were into the, like, I think it was like the trashing hotel room era kind of thing. And so they were pretty intense. So all we got crazy too, but we didn't do enough live gigs to get sued for any hotel damage. But on stage, it was like, you had an electrode up your butt. Like it was so like, oh, like you're just sweating before you start the first song. And we played so loud, the loudest band I've ever been in. I had a friend of mine that came and he got, I'm laughing, but it's not funny. He got permanent ear damage from listening to this wall play.
Oh
And
really?
so, yes, I'm sorry to say. Yeah, good old Jim. But he still had one good ear anyway, so he didn't hate me. But yeah, I always got shit from him for that gig. But yes, we were loud and intense, and Walter was just like something from outer space.
Yeah, it's a shame I weren't too late to see like all the best. Like
Yeah, and
you
there's
go to
no,
live shows now, they're just not
I
that some aren't
know,
good.
not a lot of video out of him either. Like I can't
Yeah.
believe it. Just bugs me. Everything's on video nowadays, but good for you guys.
Well,
A
I mean,
lot of
yeah,
a lot of stuff that could have been on film that was pretty good.
I go imagine a lot of that stuff. It's like
Yeah,
the band Electric Flag had like a one album 60 thing, and
yeah,
a couple of live shows where Mike Bloomfield's, just
yes,
going, and it's
yes,
just an awe to see that kind of stuff. And I
for
watch bands like
sure.
that. I imagine Zwol would have been a very similar band, like
Yes,
just partied hard and played hard.
exactly. So you're talking about the Electric Flag, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I got another recommendation for you. Let me think about this. It's a soundtrack for an album called The Trip, which I think had Peter
Well, I had
Fonda. Peter
yeah
Fonda.
yeah the movie Bomb, but I had that Electric
That's right.
Flag did some of the music on that one too.
That's
I think.
right. It's great. Great stuff on there. And so and Bloomfield and Al Cooper did a thing called Super Session. If you're not
Yeah,
aware of that, are you?
yeah, that album. Yeah.
There you go. So there's some songs on that were the first blues licks I would have stolen right
Oh
there
yeah.
on that album. Yeah, I think yeah. And so or just tried and tried and tried to get everything vibrato and right I'm talking about when I was starting. So yeah, Super Session, great record. The Trip, Mike Bloomfield, forget about it. Oh
I
my
read
God.
it's like a 700-page biography
Wow, no
years
way.
ago. It's pretty amazing.
Jeez, I'm
Yeah.
glad you read stuff like that. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I certainly have enough to write a book, but I didn't know anybody would read it. But so you would if I wrote one, eh?
You'll get one sale for sure, and
Yeah. Maybe I'll
I
just
think
talk to you
music
someday.
books do pretty well. I think overall because I mean everybody wants to know about the stories,
Well, I'm
right?
glad to hear that. And sometimes I think that's not true, and I hope I'm wrong.
Well, I think yeah, and what's interesting, like, you go to your Wikipedia page and like you just have this, and it's a partial biography because they
Yeah,
and I just you worked with well everybody really,
yep,
and so the stories you have and people always want like the Motley Crue stories, right? And Mike Bloomfield's book definitely has some of those stories. When you
yeah.
read the Spoons book, it's their stories are just how they came about and how different they were at the time, and it's just about the music and so forth, right? And analyzing the lyrics and why you wrote this, how you got this
I
feel,
see.
and that stuff. I find that fascinating. I don't know if everybody does, and just like the book I'm writing, will anybody want it when it's done? Well, we'll find out in a year or two.
And what is your book going to be about again? So we can
So
get a plug in here.
it's every song from the 1980s that made the RPM Canadian charts, and I write about it. I compare what it did in RPM, what it did in America, what it did across the world if it did, as well as all the local sites I can find stations for. And then what's becoming more fun is writing with the songs that didn't make it. Right. So
Wow, that what a excellent idea you're doing there. And what do you teach when you teach at school?
I teach Canadian history and
Oh, there's a good.
creative
So you
writing
write
and
this stuff.
leadership.
Good.
Leadership.
Leadership, creative writing, and Canadian history.
Yeah.
Oh God, you're custom made to write this book, aren't you?
It's been a long time in the making in my ideas. So
But you love history, so there you go. It's this is not an effort for you. You'd like
yeah,
it.
and I just had a wedding, as I mentioned, a couple of days ago, and two friends I hadn't seen in a while. They're like, "Why haven't you sent me the draft so far?" I'm like, I
Oh,
don't know. So I'll send the draft.
yeah,
Is all in draft form right now because I mean go back talking to you. I'll go back now and reanalyze what I wrote down for "Darling, Will Be True." I'll be true. I'll add stuff
wow.
to it, but then I've done that a couple of times and then
Yes,
haven't read it thoroughly, so I
yeah,
don't repeat myself. You go
yeah.
back to the RPM magazines, you'll find quotes from Randy Bachman when Iron Horse came out, right?
Wow.
And you're like, he talks about how the record deal fell through and so forth. And so you just find odd things and they're interesting. And so I have quotes from my book from the time that the albums were released or record reviews before the album was released. Like every time the RPM be like, this is the next big album. And then, it
And
doesn't
then
go
it
anywhere.
doesn't go anywhere. Oh God, that is fantastic because you've got it all in one place at that point, right? There you
Yeah.
go. They all
So
those Randy Bachman quotes and stuff. Way to go.
yeah,
I'm
he's
forward to
pretty
that.
fascinating. So
Well, maybe a bonus. Maybe this 10-track blues album will be a bonus for your book, or
yeah,
vice
I'll
versa.
definitely highlight it when it comes out and so forth. But I know we
Yeah,
follow I follow Walter's YouTube, Facebook, that's the one.
Facebook, right?
And so I'm sure if you do get this released, you'll put it on there. And I mean, same with you must have a bunch of demos from the 80s that are just still lingering around,
Oh yeah.
not touched and or maybe touched but not released. I mean, I know we don't make money. You guys, well, we people don't make money like they used to on music. Um, but I mean, I'm sure a lot of people who have followed your career throughout would love to hear some of those demos on Bandcamp or something down the time when you have time. So
Okay, well, I thought about that as well with this guy from Australia, right? Because he wanted some bonus tracks and stuff, and I did a couple of 45s in the 80s that basically got pressed, and that was the end of it, right? Because they didn't do anything. Some good tunes there though that didn't make the album, but they're in that vein. I was in that writing vein at that point. So uh I talked to him about that as bonus tracks, and I thought, do you want some demos? And then I got into this. Hey, by the way, I've got 10 songs that are work for me, but with different guitar players on them. And so then it got all confusing. So now we're just sort of starting from scratch now. Let's just do Barging In, uh, like the remastered version. Then maybe the remixes will be a bonus. But I don't want to put all of my tracks on this album because in case nobody buys it, what have I done? Like I'd like
yeah,
to throw things out every once in a while because if you can't make money, you might as well make it interesting to locate. I
true
don't want
enough.
to put everything in. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, like you could put a chapter out at
Yeah.
the time,
Well, there's
right?
like that your 245s from 85 and 87, I
Oh,
want to
you know
say.
about them. There you go.
I can't like they don't like I mean sure I can on Discog, they're about
Yeah.
30 or $50 each.
I love to hear that. See, that's
Yeah.
well, well,
Yeah, and I can't, but they don't like your album. I found, of course, on iTunes, and a couple songs are on YouTube. But yeah, these last two tracks couldn't find anywhere. I'm like, do they exist? One last question:
Whoa.
was there never any talk of making a video back in '84 when that was all the wave for Bargin In?
I have a video of Overnight Sensation that
Oh,
I
is
did.
there?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not.
I had hair and everything else. And it's a funny video too. Yeah.
I'll
There's a
see if I
video. Okay.
see if I
Where
can
the
find
hell
that
is that?
somewhere.
I have that. It's probably on my YouTube channel, but I might have it private. I'm not sure. I didn't think I did.
I'll be taking that out when I get a chance because that
Oh, well, if tell me if you've DM me, and if you can't find it, I'll ship it over to you. So
yeah, because that's when I talked to Frank.
yeah.
Um, he Body Electric had one video for like a song that didn't fit the album. It was way different than the rest of the album, quite frankly. It was a dance song, but Frank's the lead in the video, and it's so 1984. It's ridiculous, but it's just
Oh, and this other
it's
thing you were
funny.
telling, this other, that is hilarious. But
Uh,
the other thing about Kimberly, was he playing drums with this big cry
so
band, or he was up front?
the first album he sang and played drums, and
Yeah,
then the second or third album he switched just to focus on singing.
just up front.
Yeah,
I've
but
never
I've
heard
only
of that
found
band.
the first two albums, and the first I'll send you the titles, and I'll send you the link for the one song I put up so
Yeah,
far. It takes some
and you
time to
say it's
transfer from
punk.
record to computer and then so forth, but
I can't. Oh, don't worry about it. But I'm trying to think of him singing punk. Wow, because he didn't. It
it's
was,
new wave. I'd say it's new
oh,
wave
new
rock
wave.
pop
Okay,
with a bit
yeah,
of punk, and it's yeah, it's pretty fun. If you
I
go on
can't
YouTube
wait.
and type in the cry called Crackdown,
Yeah,
there's three. Well, somebody put down three songs of his together, so you can
okay.
hear, and that's why I heard first. And then when
A
I
lot of
found your
girls.
the day I
Oh,
found your album is when I found the first two Cry albums.
a lot of girls love his voice.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean
"Oh
I
My
love
Lady"
that.
and
Yeah.
all that stuff. Oh, it's like my older sister. One of her favorite songs is yeah. She goes to see them just so he'll sing that song.
Well, so now like, my next person to contact is going to be him because I found his website. He has a contact page, so I'm hoping, excuse me, to see if he'll chat with me down the road.
Good.
So
You know
because
what, Ronnie and I've met some drop dead hilarious people that my stomach is still sore from laughing from 40 years ago kind of people. I've been so lucky because I love to laugh and I come from a funny family. So anyway, Ronnie was one of the funniest guys I ever met in my life. I couldn't breathe when I was around him. He was so funny.
that's awesome.
So but Kim might have a couple of anecdotes about that, but very sad when he went. Very sad because yeah, like because it's not Rich Dodson, it was Ronnie that passed away, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, so funny, so
Another
funny.
band I would like to see when they were in their prime.
I was. Here's a little anecdote. Kim Kim would know this, but I was in a band called STEM in 1970 through 71, 70 and 71. My first band I'd ever put together. I just come out of my first real band, and then I started STEM, and that was we were playing Johnny Winter tunes and Zeppelin tunes. I'd come from playing Young Rascals tunes to all of a sudden we're doing Zeppelin. It was just a four-piece lead singer, me, bass, and drums. So all hands on deck, and great band. So anyway, there's a place in London, Ontario called Centennial Hall, and we got to open up for the Stampeders. And they might have even been called the Calgary Stampeders now, but it wasn't the full big band. Like, I don't know if you
Right.
remember, they used to be like a 10-piece horn band.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And
No.
then, yeah, then they were called the Calgary Stampeders. And they dressed all in cowboy suits and stuff. And then, yeah. So then, anyway, so the new Stampeders come out. I don't think Wild Eyes is out then. It was like Sweet City Woman kind of era. So we opened for them. We're freaking out. We're doing a concert in that place with the Stampeders. Anyway, so apparently we rocked the joint, and there was a write up in the London Free Press or something the next day. I don't have it, but it said something to the effect of after STEM left the stage, the Stampeders were probably wishing they were still harvesting wheat in the prairies. And I thought, oh my God, I've made it, right?
Oh, that's funny.
And so I'll never forget that quote. And I've been trying to get go through fiche machines and everything and trying to find the clip, right? Because I
Yeah.
don't even know what year it was, but I think it was 71. And but maybe Kim's got all of their itineraries from when they were baked, because they
Yeah.
had great management. And anyway, don't tell them that story. That's between you and me.
I just tell them that you fly those time you open for them. I won't tell them the rest. Yeah.
Yes, just say a friend of mine opened for you in 1971 in London at Centennial Hall. Yeah, and they were great. And then later on, I got to meet them and all this stuff. And then mostly Ronnie and Rich, and Rich showed me how to play Sweet City Woman, like the exact way to do it, right? So,
I,
and I learned it, and then 20 years goes by or whatever, and I'm in a backup band. We're playing at July the 1st Canada Day on Parliament Hill. 10,000 people at least, like out in the lawn there, and John Chrétien is sitting in the front row and a whole bit. Anyway, so we do this great big long medley, which you would love to find if it's on YouTube, of all the Canadian hits. And we did like a 20-minute medley, and like we got to back up Larry Evoy, singing Last Song, and got to back up Rich and who did I just say that passed away? Ronnie,
Ron,
Rich Ronnie. And I don't remember Kim being there, but so anyway, I got to play Sweet City Women. And so Rich knew I was in the band. He remembered my name. And so we're doing sound check or the first rehearsal or something like that. And they come walking in like we're practicing the song. And he comes in and yells in my ear, "You're playing it all wrong," right? And it was him that taught me how to play it right. So that was a good one. He remembered us from 20 years before, right?
that's funny.
Yeah, yeah. So he's a great guy too. And I got to record at his Marigold Studios a few times. Um, but when I first got to hang out with Ronnie, it was at that gig. And I was with Ronnie and Ian Thomas at the same time. And Ian is, funny. He could have been on that CTV. Like, he's crazy funny. So the three of us, I'm gonna call myself an onlooker at that point. I couldn't throw in too much stuff. And I just listened to Ian and Ronnie go, and I'm telling you, I'm killing myself laughing just remembering it. And I don't remember one thing they said. It was just nonstop, like howling, making a fool out of myself, crawling around on the floor trying to breathe, kind of laughs. They're the best.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
you have to. If you don't have that when you're traveling, those trips would be pretty long journeys if you
that's
don't get
for
along or don't
sure.
have fun.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's me in a nutshell, buddy.
Well, thanks for coming on. I do really suggest write that book. I think you have enough stories to probably write a couple, and definitely want to hear this blues album. So get working on getting that released because
Thank you, Dwayne. Well,
I really
like
think blues are coming back too. Yeah,
I
blues
don't
are
think
really
they ever go
changing.
away. Fortunately, like any guitar player who wants to start and sound good can learn one blues lick and impress his friends and everything. And so, because you can do that or learn eruption, and then you just
Yeah,
waste a whole bunch of time because you just sound just like Eddie Van Halen, and there's nowhere to go after that.
yeah.
So, and yeah, oh yeah, I could talk for hours as you know by talking to me now. But yes, it's been a pleasure, Dwayne, and thanks for offering.
Well, thank you very much, and I'm sure we'll be chatting on online still. So have a good rest
Absolutely,
of the day,
anytime.
and thanks again.
I will. And how do we stop this thing now? Do you stop it?
I think I just press end, which we're going to
That
do
would
right
be a
now.
good way to start it. Goodbye for now, my friend.
All right.
Let's try hitting end.
And